Ladies, see, what most women don't realize is that men aren't as complicated as people make us out to be. We're simple. But simple doesn't mean shallow. A man may not say everything he's feeling, but when something hits his soul, when a woman touches him, not just physically, but emotionally, that's when he changes. That's when he stops playing, stops running, and starts thinking long term. Men might look tough, walk like they've got everything under control, act like nothing phases them, but deep down, a man has a soul that craves connection, loyalty, respect, and peace. That's what he's searching for, even if he doesn't know how to say it. And the moment he meets a woman who doesn't just touch his life, but touches his soul, everything about how he sees her, how he loves her, how he moves for her, it all changes. Because when a woman gets past the surface, past the ego, past the performance, and sees the man underneath, that's when he starts to fall. Not just in not in lust, but deep, soul deep. And once a man falls that way, it's not something he walks away from easily. If you want to touch a man's soul, then you have to understand that love for a man isn't built just on words or looks. It's built on how he feels in your presence. Does he feel like he's enough? Does he feel like he's not being judged for what he lacks, but appreciated for what he's trying to become? See, a man will give his body to almost anybody, but his soul, that's rare. He's not giving that up unless you reach a part of him that most people ignore. The part that's tired. The part that's been through things he never talks about. The part that wakes up every day with 1,000 responsibilities on his shoulders. He doesn't show that to just anyone. But when he meets a woman who brings calm to his storm, who makes him feel like he's home, that's when she becomes unforgettable. It's in the way you speak to him, the tone you use when he's frustrated, the way you look at him when he's doubting himself, the way you speak life into him when the world is trying to tear him down. You see, men get beat up out here on the job, in society, even in their own minds. So when a woman comes into his world and becomes his peace, she touches something deeper than his heart. She touches his spirit. He starts thinking, I can build with her. I can grow with her. I can finally breathe around her. And that right there, that's what makes him fall. It's not about being perfect. It's about being real, being consistent, and being soft in the right places. You don't have to do everything for him. You don't even have to fix his problems. Sometimes just sitting next to him when he's quiet and not asking questions is enough. Sometimes just letting him vent without interrupting, without offering a solution, without making it about you, just letting him be. That's what he needs. And when he sees that you give him that space, that grace, that respect, he starts to associate you with comfort, with safety. And love is built on safety. Every man wants to be Superman. But even Superman needed a place to take the cape off. If you're that place for him, if you're the woman who lets him take off the armor and just be himself, you're going to see a side of him no one else gets. He's going to open up to you. He's going to protect you like you've never been protected. Because when a man feels like you feed his soul, he'll move mountains to make sure you're never without. That's what love looks like to a man. Not just roses and romantic dinners, but showing up, providing, protecting, being consistent. You give him that emotional foundation and he'll build a castle for you. And don't think he won't notice the little things. The way you touch his arm when he's stressed. The way you say, I believe in you when he's unsure. The way you support his vision even when it's not clear to anyone but him. The way you stand in his corner when life is swinging hard. These are the things that stay with him. Not the expensive gifts, not the trendy posts on social media. He remembers how you made him feel when he was low. He remembers who encouraged him when he had nothing. That's what sticks. That's what makes him say, this woman right here, she's different. She's the one. Now, let's be real. A man won't always tell you this. He might not express it in 1,000 words, but you'll know it by the way he looks at you, by how he includes you in his plans, by how he starts moving with your future in mind. When a man loves you from his soul, everything he does reflects that. He protects you not just physically, but emotionally. He checks in on you. He listens better. He wants to fix things, not to control you, but to make sure you're okay. And you didn't get that love because you were the most attractive or the most successful. You got it because you reached something deeper in him than surface level attention ever could. You see, a woman who can bring a man peace is rare. A woman who can feed his ambition without controlling him is rare. A woman who sees his flaws and doesn't weaponize them is rare. And men, especially real men, know when they found something rare. They don't run from that. They cling to it. They cherish it. And most importantly, they grow in it. Because love, when it's real, doesn't just make a man feel good, it makes him better. So when you touch a man's soul, he doesn't just fall in love with you, he builds a life around you. He makes room for you in his world. And he doesn't need convincing, chasing, or constant reminders. His soul has already been touched. And once that happens, nothing and no one else compares. I want to know the truth about what makes a man fall deeply in love. It's not what most people think. It's not always about looks or sex or being the most popular woman in the room. A man might be attracted to your appearance, sure, but that's surface level. That's physical. What touches a man's soul, what reaches into the deepest part of him and makes him fall hard, is how you make him feel. Not just in the good times, but in the quiet moments, the uncertain times, the days when he doesn't have it all together. It's when you see him for who he really is, not just who he pretends to be. That kind of emotional connection is rare, and it's the one thing that separates a woman who passes through his life from a woman he never forgets. Men carry a lot. They don't always show it. They've been taught to be strong, to keep it in, to push through, to never let their guard down, and because of that, most men live with emotional walls so high, even they forget what's behind them. But every now and then someone comes along who doesn't force her way in, but gently makes him feel like he can come out. A woman who doesn't try to fix him, doesn't try to compete with him, doesn't try to pressure him, but just lets him be. She becomes his peace in a world that constantly demands more from him. That kind of woman touches his soul. And when that happens, that man is never the same. He starts to move differently. He starts to think about you in the quiet moments. You live in his mind even when he's busy. He starts planning around you without even realizing it. Not because you asked, not because you begged, but because he wants to. Because there's something about your presence, your energy, your voice, your spirit that brings him back to center. When he's around you, he doesn't feel judged. He feels respected. He feels like he doesn't have to pretend. And that's powerful. That feeling is something a man will chase, commit to, and protect. Because for a man, emotional safety is love. He might not say it the way you want to hear it. A man may not come out and say, "You touch my soul," but he'll show it. He'll show it by checking on you, by doing things for you without being asked, by going out of his way to make sure you're okay. When you speak to his heart, he listens. When you inspire his mind, he grows. When you understand his silence, you earn his trust. That trust becomes the foundation of something strong, something lasting. That's what leads to deep love. The kind that doesn't fade, doesn't shift with the seasons, and doesn't end with the first disagreement. Most women are taught how to love with their words, their gestures, their attention. But what truly sets a woman apart is how she connects on a deeper level. It's in her calm energy. It's in how she holds space for him when he's not his best. It's in how she doesn't make his moments a weakness, a punchline. A woman who touches a man's soul knows how to listen, not just to what he says, but to what he doesn't say. She picks up on his energy. She senses his mood. She responds with empathy instead of judgment. That kind of emotional intelligence is what makes her unforgettable. And it's not about being passive or doing everything he says. It's not about losing your power or pretending to be someone you're not. In fact, the opposite is true. A woman who touches a man's soul is strong in her own identity. She's confident. She knows who she is, but she also knows how to be soft where it matters. She knows when to lead and when to let him lead. She knows how to speak truth with grace. She doesn't try to compete with his masculinity. She complements it. That balance creates chemistry that isn't just physical, it's spiritual. He starts opening up. He shares parts of himself he's never shared before. He tells you about his dreams, not just the big ones, but the quiet ones, the ones he's never said out loud. He lets you into the places he usually guards. And when he does that, he's not doing it lightly. That means he sees you as someone real, someone safe, someone who sees beyond the image and recognizes the man. And when he sees that you're still there, still loving him, still believing in him, even after the layers come off, that's when he knows he's found something special. See, love for a man isn't always loud. It's often quiet, steady, intentional. It's how he looks at you in the car when he thinks you're not paying attention. It's how he brags about you when you're not around. It's how he asks about your day and listens, not just to respond, but to understand. He's showing you he's invested, not just with his time, but with his heart. And that kind of man doesn't fall in love easily. But when he does, it's with everything he's got. A man's soul isn't touched by games or manipulation. It's touched by authenticity, by kindness, by loyalty, by a woman who sees the king in him even when he feels like a servant. A woman who doesn't walk away when life gets complicated. A woman who prays for him in private and speaks life into him in public. That's the kind of woman he never forgets. That's the kind of love that lasts. That's what makes a man fall, not for the moment, but for a lifetime. There's a part of every man that's hidden, a part that he doesn't show to just anybody. He may laugh, he may joke, he may flirt, but the deepest part of him, the part that aches, that hopes, that dreams and fears, is guarded. He protects it because he's been taught that showing it makes him weak. So what does he do? He walks through life carrying silent burdens, quiet frustrations, and unspoken pressure. That's why when a woman comes along who doesn't just want his time, his money, or his attention, but wants to understand him, to truly know him, that's when something in him starts to shift. Because that kind of presence doesn't come often. That kind of connection doesn't just touch his heart, it touches his soul. Men, whether they say it or not, are starving for a place to feel seen. They want a woman who listens not just to their words, but to their silences. A woman who doesn't make everything about her, but knows when to lean in and ask what's on your mind without expecting a perfect answer. Because sometimes a man doesn't even have the words, he just needs space. He needs to know that when life gets heavy, there's someone who won't make him feel smaller for caring too much. A woman who gives him that space becomes something more than a girlfriend or a wife. She becomes his peace. And when a man finds peace, he holds on to it. It's not the loud, flashy gestures that speak to a man's soul. It's in the quiet moments, when he's had a long day and you sit beside him without demanding his energy. When he fails and you don't shame him, but remind him that one failure doesn't define his worth. When you celebrate his smallest wins just as much as the big ones. That's the stuff that stays with him. That's what makes a man look at you differently. That's when he starts to wonder, how did I ever live without this? Because you didn't just support the man the world sees. You embraced the man the world never sees. Men fall in love with how a woman makes them feel about themselves. You don't have to be the most beautiful, the most successful, or the most charming, but if a man feels stronger, wiser, more focused when he's with you, if he feels like you bring out the best in him, that's when his soul starts attaching to yours. It's not just love at that point, it's alignment. It's spiritual. He sees you as a partner, not a project, as a blessing, not a burden. And when that happens, everything he does, his words, his actions, his plans, start reflecting that bond. A woman who touches a man's soul understands timing. She doesn't push when he's not ready. She doesn't pressure him to open up before he's built trust. She lets the connection grow naturally. And when he starts opening those emotional doors, she doesn't walk in with judgment. She walks in with patience. That patience tells him it's okay to be himself. It's okay to be human. And once a man feels that kind of emotional safety, he doesn't want to lose it. He starts protecting the relationship in ways you don't even notice. He becomes more attentive. He checks in more. He becomes more intentional. That's not random. It's because you've touched something in him that most people never get close to. It's not about always saying the right thing. It's about being genuine. When you're honest with him, even when it's hard, when you tell him what you need without making it a test or a trap, that's something he respects, because honesty is rare. Vulnerability is rare. A woman who communicates with kindness, who expresses her needs without tearing him down, becomes a woman he wants to build with. Because men don't fall for perfection. They fall for peace, for trust, for love that feels real. You don't have to perform. You don't have to impress him with constant excitement or drama. Just be you. Show up with consistency. Show up with kindness. Show up with a heart that's soft but strong, and when he realizes you're not playing a role, you're just being real, he lets his guard down. That's when the magic happens. That's when he stops hiding. That's when he begins to love, not just with words or promises, but with action, presence, and protection. You can't force a man to love deeply, but you can inspire him to. You can live in such a way that he can't help but fall, not because you manipulated him into it, but because he sees your worth so clearly that he can't imagine losing it. And when a man gets to that place, his love doesn't just come through compliments or gifts. It shows up in how he carries you, how he defends you, how he prays for you. When you don't even know it, because when his soul has been touched, his commitment becomes spiritual, his bond becomes sacred. That's what it means to love a man the way he really wants to be loved, not with control, not with conditions, not with chaos, but with peace, presence, and purpose. That's when he falls, not because he has to, not because he feels obligated, but because something in him has been seen, honored, and loved in a way he can never forget. And from that place, everything else flows. That's the kind of love that lasts a lifetime. Most men don't walk around wearing their emotions on their sleeves. They've been taught to stay composed, to stay strong, to keep their guard up. But that's why when something or someone breaks through all that silence and structure and actually touches a man's soul, it's a moment that changes everything for him. He might not even be ready for it. It might catch him off guard. But when it happens, he feels it in a way he can't explain. Suddenly he's thinking differently, behaving differently, and looking at love in a way he never did before. Because for a man, once something hits him deeply, once he feels emotionally safe and connected, he's not just loving with his heart, he's loving with his whole soul. A woman who reaches that place doesn't do it by being loud or demanding. She does it through presence, through patience, through moments that feel simple but are everything. It's in how she asks how he's doing and really means it. It's in how she listens, not waiting to respond, but genuinely trying to understand. It's how she doesn't try to change him, but encourages the best in him. That kind of energy is rare. That kind of peace is powerful. And when a man finds it, he doesn't just feel love, he feels understood, valued, and seen. A man's soul starts to open when he feels like he's not being judged. That's huge. Most men live with a fear of not being good enough. They'll never say it, but it's there, deep inside. The fear of failing as a provider, the fear of not being able to live up to expectations, the fear of being vulnerable and getting hurt. But when a woman creates a space where he feels like he can be his full self, flaws and all, that fear begins to fade. He starts to relax, he starts to trust, and from that trust grows loyalty, love, and depth. It's not always the grand gestures that reach him, it's the little ones that leave the biggest mark. The way you remember his favorite snack, the way you encourage him before a big day, the way you rub his back when he's quiet, the way you support his passions even when you don't fully understand them. These things might seem small to you, but to him they speak volumes. They say, I see you, I believe in you, I'm with you. And that message goes straight to the core of who he is. That's not just affection, that's connection. When a man sees that you don't love him for what he gives you, but for who he is, that touches him in a place words can't reach. He starts to open doors that were locked for years. He starts sharing his story, not just the highlight reel, but the dark parts too. And when he sees that you're still there after all that honesty, after all that exposure, something shifts. That's when the walls come down. That's when love stops being a feeling and becomes a foundation. A man falls deeply when he feels he can build with you. Not just exist, not just pass time, but build. Build a life, build a future, build legacy. That doesn't mean you have to have all the answers, but it means you're willing to stand beside him through the process, that you're willing to grow together, that you're not just in it for the fun parts, but also for the parts that require patience, work, and grace. A woman who brings that level of depth isn't just a lover, she becomes his anchor. There's something deeply attractive to a man about a woman who carries herself with confidence and softness. Not arrogance, not control, but calm certainty. A woman who knows her worth, but doesn't need to announce it constantly. A woman who respects herself and, because of that, earns his respect too. That energy invites trust. It lets him know that she's not desperate for love, she's offering it from a place of strength. And when love comes from strength, it inspires him to rise to the occasion. Not because she forced him, but because he wants to meet her there. Men remember how a woman made them feel in their weakest moments. Did she tear him down or build him up? Did she shame him or speak life into him? Did she walk away when he stumbled or stand beside him with quiet strength? These are the moments that define love for a man. These are the memories that stay. He may forget a date or a gift, but he'll never forget how you made him feel when he felt like a failure and you still looked at him like he was enough. The truth is, men don't fall in love by accident. They fall in love with intention. When a man gives his soul to a woman, it's not out of pressure. It's because he found something sacred in her, something steady, something safe, something that makes him want to be better, do better, and give more. He doesn't see her as a temporary thrill. He sees her as a lifelong partner. And that kind of love doesn't fade. It deepens. It grows stronger with time. Because once a man's soul is involved, he's not walking away unless you push him out the door. So when a man finds a woman who touches his soul, he becomes a version of himself that even he didn't know he could be. He shows up in ways he never did before. He communicates, he commits, he gives, and not because you demanded it, but because you inspired it. That's what real love looks like. That's what soul deep connection feels like. And once it happens, everything changes for both of you.